Want to make someone really happy this holiday season? Give the gift of homebrewing. When you purchase an American Homebrewers Association membership gift card, you'll also get a free gift of your choice. Head over to homebrewersassociation.org to learn more about this limited time offer. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, December 1st, 2016. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Steve's Brew Shop is at long last open for business. We'll talk to the founder of this brand new homebrew store, our very own Steve Wilkes. If you're new to homebrewing or would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. And if you buy any of our DVD combos, you get a free Basic Brewing bottle opener. Don't forget to get a copy of our Brewer's Logbook while you're at it. You can use it to log and track up to 50 batches of beer. You can follow me on Twitter. My username is Basic Brewing, all one word. We also have a show page on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing. Thanks again to everybody clicking on the Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site, especially during this busy holiday season. Whenever you think of Amazon shopping, think of us first and click on our associate link on basicbrewing.com. It won't cost you any extra, and you'll be helping us to bring you this show, and we greatly appreciate your support. We also have associate links for Brew Your Own magazine and the American Homebrewers Association on our site as well. You can find our Basic Brewing iPhone app on iTunes, our Android app on Amazon.com. We have a Windows Phone app. We're on the BlackBerry Podcast Directory and we're on the Stitcher app as well. We're on Google Play Music and iHeartRadio, the iHeartRadio app, too. And if you want to put a tip in our tip jar, some coinage in our virtual guitar case, you can go to basicbrewing.com/support. And thanks to everybody who's done so already. It's coming up on the end of the year, and it will very soon be time for our annual Brewing Disaster Show. Every year, Steve and I get together to read your stories of brewing gone wrong. It's a lot of fun, and we award prizes to our favorite stories. And I've already begun receiving disaster stories. Somebody asked on Twitter the other day, are you still accepting disasters? Yes, send your disaster stories. So if you've got a story to share, send it to me at james@basicbrewing.com or use the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And we should record. I haven't gotten with Steve to see when he can get together to record, but it maybe next week or so. So get those in while you're thinking about it. So let's take a look into the mailbag, shall we? Kevin from Boulder, Colorado writes, I brewed a Belgian-style triple that I bottled, some into 12-ounce bottles and the rest either in bombers or 750 milliliter bottles. The beer is highly carbonated, as I believe is appropriate for the style. Strangely, the large format bottles gush like crazy when I open them, while the 12-ouncers pour just fine. I can't even begin to hypothesize why this might be, and I can't seem to find anything relevant doing a web search. Any thoughts? Well, Kevin, it seems like we've had some discussion on the show about different size bottles needing different rates of priming, but I don't know if there's any validity to that, and I can't remember what was said. So we need a wiki thing so we can search for these things. I asked Kevin if the larger bottles were corked, because popping a cork might cause the carbonation to release quickly and gush. But he says that's not the case. They're all capped. Could it simply be the shape of the bottles? If you've experienced this yourself, or if you have any theories, drop me a line and I'll share your note with Kevin. Jeff from Australia writes, I've always used Cooper's PET bottles. Recently, for reasons I've not yet worked out, I had severe overcarbonation. It was interesting to see that a number of the bottles gave way in a safe manner. They gently split on the base. The first I knew was the mess in the box. Good to know they don't tend to explode. I suspect being Cooper's, that is by design. Interesting. Designed to split gracefully instead of explode into shrapnel. I accidentally double primed a Mr. Beer PET bottle, and the result was pretty dramatic sounding. There was a loud boom from the downstairs bathroom, and when I checked it out, there was beer on the floor, and one of the plastic bottles had burst. It was still, still in one piece, but the bottom had turned into a flap. But it was still easier to clean up than glass, though, for sure. But it was very dramatic. Very impressive to the missus. I got all inspired by Gard Carlsness's Christmas beer from a couple of episodes ago. I brewed up a portal. And I'm going to go through it. No, I brewed up a porter. Mine is moderate gravity, about 5.5% alcohol by volume. And instead of I think it was 8% that Gard's was. I'm planning on putting that on cacao nibs and coconut, similar to what Gard did, and then take another part of that and put it on the mole seasoning that I used before, the ancho chili, and then the cinnamon, and then the cacao nibs. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope it's done for the holidays. Tons of things going on recently. I'm especially excited about that porter because I used that occasion of that brew day to use my Warthog EBC 130 electric brewery controller from our sponsors Desiree and Dave from High Gravity in Tulsa. Man, I was really impressed. It's definitely an improvement over the original controller that I had for my system, but I liked that one too, and it worked just fine. So I'm especially excited about this one. The EBC 130 has a mash mode and a boil mode. In the mash mode, you set the strike water temperature, and the controller will ramp down the power level automatically when it's approaching the target temperature. You can watch it, the little lights flashing when that happens. So you're less likely to overshoot that strike water temperature. In the boil mode, once you get your mash done, you can use the knob on the controller to vary the power level, and you can see that represented percentage-wise on the digital readout. Very handy. In the old controller, it had a knob on the side, but you kind of had to guess where you were on the power level. This is more precise. It's fully overload protected, they say, with a 30-amp breaker and a 10-amp fuse for the 120-volt subsystem. The Warthog EBC 130 is one of a family of Warthog electric brewing controllers from High Gravity. You can check them all out, along with the turnkey electric systems of many configurations, at highdgravitybrew.com. And since it's the holiday season, until December 31st, $90 will get you a $100 gift card. So perfect for your homebrewer friends and loved ones on the internet. On your Christmas list. That's what I was trying to think of. Check all that out at highdgravitybrew.com. Well, you never know where life will take you. 20 years ago, Steve Wilkes and I brewed beer together in his kitchen on Sunny Lane in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And who would have thought that fun hobby would lead to our DVDs and the podcasts and the traveling around? And now Steve's ownership of his own homebrew shop. He officially opened this past weekend, so I took the opportunity to check in to see how things are going. Well, Steve Wilkes, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks, James. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, where are we?
We're at my store, Steve's Brew Shop.
Steve's Brew Shop. And you are open for business. Not open today, but you are open for business, and it's been a while. It's been a long road, but man, it's the result is impressive.
Thanks, James. Yeah, we opened Saturday, which was November the 26th, 2016, for our first regularly scheduled day of operation. So I had left the doors open the week previous as a very soft opening. So if you happen to wander in, happen to have wandered in, I would wait on you. But Saturday was the big day, and it was great. We had a lot of folks that came in to wish us well. A lot of customers came in and actually bought things, which is a wonderful thing when you're in retail and learning. And so from now on, we'll be open our regular hours, which will be it will be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'll be closed on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday though at least 2 of those days will be spent restocking the store and doing the internet business and accounting and all of that. So I'm a one-man band, and that's what we're going to do.
So talk a bit about what led you here. I mean, we've been in business together for more than a decade with Basic Brewing, and this is your baby. I mean, a lot of people have asked me, "Oh, so you and Steve together in this?" No, this is all you. So what led you to opening a homebrew shop?
That is a very multi-layered question, and I won't go into every layer. But I do have a background in retail and in sales, so in outside and inside sales. I spent I actually managed a men's clothing chain in Kansas City before I was in the Army. I had 8 stores that I was responsible for. So I kind of had that in my background a little bit. I also had some food service, some restaurant work in my background. And then I spent about 20 years as the director of student media at the University of Arkansas, where I literally taught marketing for the newspaper and for TV and radio and all of that, and a lot of administrative work there too. So I managed about a $600,000 budget for a long time. And so all those skills, all those kind of multi-skills come together, and all the while I'm brewing. All the while I'm brewing beer and making wine as a hobbyist. And then you and I partnered up, and we really worked as journalists for over a decade now, covering the craft beer and homebrew world. And with our podcast, with Basic Brewing Podcast, and I helped with the DVDs that are under your label. And then as time passed, and I thought about, well, I had a major illness which I had to deal with. I had some rather severe neck injury, and I had to have surgery, and it took about a year for that to get better. And during that year, I decided it was time to leave the university. I wasn't angry at anything. It was just time to go. And so then this spring, I retired from the U of A on June the 1st. And in about August the 8th, I finalized an offer with Andy Sparks, who was the previous owner of this store. He was ready to do something different. I was ready to do something different. The Northwest Arkansas Metro, so from Bella Vista south to South Fayetteville, we've got about 500,000 people here now, and we need a homebrew store. And I just felt like I was in the right place, physically, employment-wise, financially, in all the ways that you might want to think about. That, the universe doesn't come along and offer you an opportunity very often like this. And I decided to take advantage of it. So I spoke with Andy several times over the course of the summer, and truthfully, I went back and forth. I was going to do it, then I wasn't going to do it, then I was going to do it. And I think he was the same way. Oh, I'm going to sell it. I'm not going to sell it. I mean, it's a gut-wrenching decision to make, whether you're leaving it or acquiring it. But eventually, then we came to an agreement, and we closed on September the 30th, so that on October the 1st, it was my store. I came in here on October the 1st, I suppose, but certainly by that Monday, the first would have been a Saturday, and started remodeling the store and rebranding it. We took everything out. I packaged up all the inventory. I put it in a pod. That was a day's work, let me tell you. And we just kind of started. I ended up replacing all the flooring. I ended up putting a new ceiling in. I ended up replacing all of the fixtures so that everything in this store is new. Everything in the store is restaurant grade, restaurant quality. I believe very strongly in offering things, especially consumables, that are of not just high quality when they come in the door, but that they go out the door quickly enough that they remain high quality. So that gets back to my previous life in restaurant work, that you really make sure that you turn the food quickly. And although it's not categorized as food, I don't have to pass a health inspection. I want to make sure that I could and that I can. And that just gets to my philosophy of how to approach the hobby in general.
When you first took over the store, we talked, and I can't remember what the original opening date was, but it was like, I'll be up and running in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks turned into 3 weeks, and then 4. And so before we started recording just now, you said that this was, a straight-up learning curve. And so talk a bit about the things that you didn't expect. I mean, what were the bumps that you had to get over to get to where we are?
Wow. There were a lot of bumps. I think the biggest bump was how much money it would take. And I won't go into particulars about it, but I can tell you that I spent about 3 times the amount of money I thought I would spend just preparing the store. So that doesn't have anything to do with the product that's in the store or even the initial purchase price. So the remodel, and I'm not a contractor. I don't know a thing about that. So everything that you do will cost 3 times more than you think it should. So that was a big bump. And, but, when I looked at any given thing, I'd sit down to try to balance the books a little bit, or at least keep track of what I was doing. And I would just go into sticker shock, but then I would look at each project, each portion of it, and think, no, I had to do the floors. The floors had to be done, or I had to replace the ceiling, or I had to get the new shelving. I mean, none of those decisions, no one of them was the wrong thing, except for this one stupid display case I bought, which is just awful. and it's got to go, I can tell you, because it won't hold anything. But I was very fortunate in that I had good advice along the way. I had good advice. I worked with the Walton College of Business Small Business Development Center to help me build a business plan that made sense, that gave me good projections, that was realistic in terms of how much income I could generate, how I could manage that generated income. I had wonderful help. In fact, and you're one of them. You and Susan came out one day and built shelves like Turks, I swear.
No, I think that's a compliment to Turks.
Yeah, that is a compliment. Definitely. Work like a Turk. But I had lots of friends, Stace Treat, you and Susan, Anya, Earl McShane came out and worked for free and did all kinds of lighting and got the cash wrap ready. It's been a long day. And my wife, Gretchen, who just worked like 2 Turks. I mean, she just worked and worked and worked to help get the place ready. And even the contractors that came out, the guys from January Flooring that came, and one of the guys that waited on me, he's a mead maker. And so he's really interested in the store being done. He's already come in about a couple of cases of bottles. But so everywhere I've turned, I've had people in Northwest Arkansas who were genuinely enthusiastic about the project, came in and did the job that they were hired to do or that they volunteered to do with a smile on their face and a willing spirit, and it all came together, and it feels good. It feels like a place you want to be. And that's part of it. That's part of what I'm after. So those were all bumps in the roads, but they were opportunities. They were things that, I didn't think I was going to replace all the flooring. I thought I was going to replace the flooring in the front end, shampoo the carpeting in the middle of the room, and just strip and wax the floors in the back end. Once I looked at it, once I emptied the store out and looked at it, I just shook my head and said, no, that can't happen.
Well, once you start replacing one piece with something new, then It's like, oh, well, that thing that didn't look so bad before, now it's a domino effect.
Yeah, huge domino effect.
So the store before, the home brewery, was, I think, a comfortable place for experienced home brewers, especially, to come, because everything was arranged so that you knew where things were, and you could get your grain. It was very approachable as far as from a technical point of view, I think. And I think that one thing that you have tried to do is kind of make this more of a boutique shop, and maybe while still maintaining the atmosphere for the experienced brewers, you still got all the stuff, but it is more kind of welcoming for those who might be scared away by just coming in and seeing, a shelf full of gear that you don't know what is. It is kind of more it's kind of more welcoming to those who might be scared away easily by just looking at stuff they don't know anything about. If that makes sense. So, kind of talk about your philosophy. Talk about how you rearrange the store and how you redesigned the space.
Right. So that was a really good analogy or discussion of what I did. So my thought process was that yes, there's a core and a really valuable core of people in terms of a customer base who are very experienced. They know exactly what they're doing. They could go to any hardware store and suss it out, But there's a whole lot of folks that want to try it, and they're not quite sure, and they don't quite know yet where they're at in that concept. So what I did was I thought about the store in a linear way, and I thought that when you enter the store, it should be an experience that is friendly to someone who has never brewed before. So thinking about it that way, the front of the store will have all the prepackaged kits in it, the things that you can kind of buy as a kit or a box that has everything you need in it. So I literally call that the boutique when I talk about it, and that's where I'll have. I do plan to carry a more full line of cheese making equipment, a cider stuff, mead making equipment. It's not so much the equipment, but the ingredients are a little different. But for instance, I'm looking hard for a couple of lines of local honey that would be appropriate to make mead with, and I want to carry those, and those will be up front. That sort of thing. As you move toward the back of the store, when you move out of the front end, where things are literally pick them up, put them in a sack, take them home, and use them. Also, we're carrying a line of handmade beer steins and beer glasses that a local artist has made for us. We carry a line of handmade wine charms that are really nice. Locally produced, local artists made them. And I'll have more of those kinds of things as I get a little more settled and find folks to produce them. I'm very, very interested in a kind of farm-to-table concept, even for this store. So I want to make sure that I have that this feels like Fayetteville. The store feels like it lives in Fayetteville. And if you're from this area, you know what that means. But as you move into the store, as you move back into the middle room, that used to be the grain room when Andy had it. But I've turned that into what I now call the hardware store. So that's where all the nuts and the bolts and the tubing and the siphon hoses and the bottle caps and all those kinds of arcane things that unless you're a brewer, you don't know what those are. And you don't know what they're for. But that's where all that stuff lives, along with the adjunct sugars and spices and things like that. And those things are all, I hope, pretty well organized. And of course, as I do business and find out what works and what doesn't work, how the customers respond to where things are and how they're organized, all that'll change. But in general, it moves from I don't know anything about this to I know quite a bit about this. Then in the back room, in the very back room, that's the grain room. And the only people that are interested in the grain room are people who really, really know how to brew, because they're the only people that are going to be buying raw grain or kilned grain. And I rearranged that room from kind of a one-size-fit-all tub into 3 different sized restaurant quality. They're actually restaurant ingredient bins that you'd have in a commercial kitchen. But they're very nice. They're very heavily made. They're made to hold flour and sugar and things like that if you're running a kitchen. But I'm holding different kinds of grain. So I've got containers that'll hold 60 or 70 pounds of grain. So for the base grains, the primary base grains, those are in those containers. Then I have some somewhat smaller 6.5 gallon containers, which is about 25 or so pounds of grain that I can carry, say, for the Munichs and the Viennas of the world that you might not use quite as much. And of course, I'm talking about hobbyists here. I'm not talking about a commercial setting. But so 2-row, I carry a lot of 2-row and a lot of Marisade, those kinds of things. Those are in the big grains. But the Munichs and the Victories and the chocolate malts and those kinds of grains are in the 6.5 gallon containers. And then for the crystal malts, the things that in your normal 5-gallon recipe, you use 2 ounces. We won't carry 55-gallon bags of those anymore. We'll carry 10-pound bags of those so that we turn the product more frequently. Again, it really gets back to my philosophy of making sure that the ingredients that we sell are fresh and you get the most bang for your buck. That when you put that ingredient kit together and you go home and brew that, and then you drink that beer later, you're drinking the freshest beer that you can make. And that really starts at your homebrew store. It doesn't start in your brew kettle. It starts when you buy the grains. So it's important to me to make sure that the grains you get are good and fresh. Same thing with the kits that we'll produce. And I'll produce some under my name. We'll produce a line under the Basic Brewing name. All the grains in those kits will be vacuum sealed, so that when you get that kit and you open it up, it's absolutely as fresh as it can humanly be, having been sent through the mail. So that's the store.
And then, but you've got a couple of things. You invested in a new grain mill that is, man, that thing is sharp. We tested it out for the first time, and we put a pound of grain in there, and it went in. That pound of grain went through in 12 or 13 seconds. It's just like, and the crush was just perfect. So very efficient and consistent and easy to use, because you're a one-man band. You can't be running back and forth all the time to help people, although people who do need help, you will.
Sure.
So that's impressive. Also up front, you didn't mention the hop refrigerator and the yeast refrigerators as well. You invested in new equipment there too.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to. Well, I had several things in mind. One was just to have really a fresh approach to how things were stored, and I wanted to the old hop and yeast fridge I still have, and I'm still using it. I'm storing it for bulk things at the moment, but energy efficiency was really important to me. So part of being successful in any business is being sure that you're as efficient as you can possibly be. So efficient use of electricity is important as well. And so the new equipment is very efficient. It organizes the materials very nice. I've got one fridge just for hops. I've got another smaller fridge just for beer yeast, and then a twin of it for wine and cider yeast and things like that. And for a store this size, I don't have to have hundreds of packets of things. I can have a couple of dozen out. I do have a freezer in the back where I store hops, that I keep frozen. Yeast you don't want to freeze, but I'm keeping enough of that. And nowadays, my vendor can ship me product within 2 days. So it's not like I have to keep a huge amount of things on hand, because the supply chain is so much better than it would have been, say, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. So I specifically designed the store for a kind of throughput, a very quick throughput of inventory that's really important. It's very important with yeast. It's very important with hops. All the ingredients that go into beer have to be fresh and bright and give you the full experience, and that's important to me. I'd also say that's important on the wine side, too. And, traditionally in a store like this, beer is about 60 to 65% of the product mix, the sell. So, and about 35 to 40% is wine. I suspect that'll be statistically about the same here, but I like wine, and I make a lot of wine. I probably make more wine than beer, actually. And so I'm really interested in having a full wine program, and I've talked to a lot of folks that make wine. We have a lot of people around here that make their own wine. In other words, they harvest their own fruit, and they make their own fruit wines. We have a lot of grapes that are grown down in the mountains down here, and they'll get their hands on their own grapes. So I'm really interested in being able to really be a source for all those folks as well. And you can make great wine. It's kind of expensive to get into a kit, so a kit might cost you, say, $100. So you got $100 that you're outlaying. But when you break that down into 30 bottles, you're getting a $15 to $20 bottle of wine at retail for about $5. Mm-hmm. It makes great sense. And if you already know how to brew beer, making wine's a breeze. Yeah. It's a lot easier. And I would say the same things about mead and about cider. I want to make sure that I have a good line for those things. I'm also very interested in making cheese. I make it at home sometimes. I don't do it all the time, but I like doing it. And what I decided, my overall philosophy for what do I carry in this store is, if it ferments, if it brews, I'm interested in carrying it. It doesn't mean I will be able to necessarily, but people who make beer, who make wine, who like to cook, they probably also like to brew their own coffee and maybe even roast their own coffee beans. They probably like to barbecue every once in a while. So I do plan to carry, although I don't have those things yet, I just opened, but we'll have a nice line of barbecue rubs that are my design, that are, things that we've done in basic brewing, recipes that we've developed over the years, or that we think are really good and really worth carrying. Well, I'll have a line of green coffee beans and some coffee roasters. I'll have a nice line of cheese products. I'll have a nice line of things specifically for mead and specifically for ciders. In fact, I was talking with a local apple grower here at our farmers market last Saturday, and he's very interested in partnering with me next fall. We can't do it this fall, it's already gone, but next fall in providing me with locally pressed cider, sweet cider, that we can then package up into kits and sell.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And talking about your dry rub recipe and things like that, there are other things that all the archives of basic brewing video that we've done over the years could be a great inspiration for a line of products like Steve's Vermouth Kit. All the spices and the herbs and things that you can turn your own homemade white wine into your own homemade vermouth, as we did in the video. Mm-hmm. All of this stuff is just great. Is great grist for the mill, so to speak.
That's right.
So let me turn into Mike Wallace here.
All right.
You're
not as wrinkled as he is.
I'm not as dead as he is either. Knock wood. Knock for Micah. I met Mike Wallace one time. It was an interesting experience. Okay, so you're getting the shop ready to go. And out comes the article, or the round of articles that say that homebrewing is in decline. And, so there's so much good beer out there that homebrewing is in decline. How do you address that issue? Is it scary starting investing all this money and starting a brand new business, and, people are reporting, the decline of homebrew all of a sudden? What's your reaction, sir?
Xanax. No, I will admit that when I was doing the researching, I was actually writing my business plan, and I started reading about that very topic. But I think if you dig just a little bit, what you'll find out is that the numbers of homebrewers haven't really shrunk. What's happened is the low-hanging fruit there isn't as much low-hanging fruit anymore. And what I mean by that is I think that a lot of homebrew shops, and I believe there are about 500 in the United States right now.
Wow.
And when you say it's contracting, it means that about 11% of those shops have closed. And I'm sure that the folks at the Brewers Association can help me out with that. But my take on it was that a number of shops around the country have closed, but they have closed not because homebrewing has shrunk, but because the competition for the homebrew dollar has gotten better. So it is true that you can buy any of this stuff. I mean, pretty much any of it, except for our 15-minute pale ale kit, kind of anywhere. I mean, you can buy grain kind of anywhere. You can buy a piece of tubing kind of anywhere. And you can get it reasonably fast through the internet. That is very true. But what you can't get is good advice. What you can't get is someone to walk you through the process, maybe even to taste your first couple of brews and tell you what you did right and tell you what you did wrong. You won't get that from a big website. And so a lot of stores that succeeded for 20 years or so since homebrewing, Charlie Papazian kind of got it going, you might say, and then little homebrew shops cropped up all over the country, and everybody did really well for a long time because the industry was exponentially growing. So kind of, if you could walk and breathe, you could kind of run a homebrew shop. But now, if you're not a smart retailer, if you don't understand how to control inventory, if you don't understand how to really I don't want to use jargony words, but if you don't understand how to take care of your property and market your goods and help your customers and really identify what they really need, which sometimes isn't what they come in for. And if you can't help them think through what it is they're really after, then you're going to be the store that closes. You're going to be the store that can't make it. And so with that thought in mind, I'm just full of myself enough that I think that I can manage an inventory in a way that gives my customers a product that they're happy to buy. I think I can manage it in a way that I can bring it to them at a reasonable cost, that they're willing to spend their money with me locally instead of online. And I understand that sometimes I'm just not going to be able to compete with whatever it is. I get that. But that in general, if you come to me, I will present you with a solution to your problem, not just a product. And that has value. And then you wrap that around a physical store, a brick and mortar store that's well maintained, that's clean, that's bright, that's cheery, that's well organized, that the shelves are properly stocked. All that taken together, I think, can be successful. And with that in mind, I don't think that statistic that homebrewing is shrinking is true. It's not true in the way it might be true if you're only looking at local homebrew shops, LHBSs that have closed. If you look at it on the surface, you think, oh, but what you're not seeing is that business is still there. It's just going somewhere else. And again, I'm sure that other folks have thought longer and harder about this than me. So take that with a little bit of salt. But I personally believe, at least in our market in this area, we've got a metro of now over 500,000 folks. There's me, and there's one other very small homebrew shop up in Rogers, which is about 35 or 40 miles from here. We should both be able to live well and prosper, and there should be enough customer base to allow me to keep a brick and mortar store. And I'm very hopeful that we'll have a very successful online store as well. I don't have any illusions about becoming the next Northern Brewer or Midwest Supplies. That isn't what I'm about. I don't really care about that. I do care about providing a really nice place for folks to come here locally and to share in the hobby and the passion that we discovered in the mid-'90s. I mean, all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, I can make this myself. And so I still have that joy and that passion with it, and I'm very happy to be able to share it with folks, and that's what this store is about.
Yeah, and looking at the numbers, the listenership for the podcast, it's not going down. Mm-mm. So good homebrewers, dedicated homebrewers are still out there.
Yeah.
And the interest is still there. And I think that the core is still solid. I mean, I think that our listenership, in the beginning we talked to beginning brewers, and we still probably do.
Sure.
But I think that most of our audience nowadays is more advanced homebrewers who understand all the stuff that we talk about now, whereas, a beginning brewer listening to, some of our most recent shows would be like, oh my gosh, I don't understand this stuff. But so I think that the core of home brewers are still out there and still active, and I think that that's comforting. But also, I mean, you have the opportunity to grow new home brewers, and I think that there is a culture in Northwest Arkansas, especially in the Fayetteville area, of the farm to table things, of people wanting to make things themselves, and to go. Even though, now we've got, in addition to the co-op. Grocery store, we now have a Whole Foods in town, but that doesn't mean that just because they can get higher quality stuff that's already made, these people around here who enjoy the process are still going to make their own food. They're still going to grow their own food. They're still out there. So I think that you have the opportunity to kind of energize some of those people that are maybe inspired by the local craft beer into making their own and not replacing homebrew with the good craft beer that's in the area. I mean, I still homebrew and I still buy good commercial beer. Yeah. So it all goes together.
Yeah, and it gets to the culture of Northwest Arkansas, or I would say the culture of the Ozarks. Folks that grew up in these mountains and these hills, they learned how to do for themselves, and we value that kind of culture around here. And I think that's why we have such a great farmers market. It's why the local co-op is as good as it is, and it's a very good place to shop. And it's why Whole Foods is successful. I mean, those kinds of places, there's lots and lots of little boutiques like mine that sell different things. But our culture, the people of the Ozarks like to be able to be self-sufficient. And that even gets to brewing their own beer and making their own wine.
So you've been officially open for a whole day this past Saturday.
Yeah.
So coming off of that one day, how's your mood? What do you gain from that one day? What's the feedback that you got from that one day? And are you skeptical or are you energized?
I'm very energized. I'm not skeptical at all. A little tired. And I'll be very thankful. We've since the 1st of October, I've been in this kind of 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week mode of trying to get the store open. Because, like you say, I thought, 2 weeks, no problem. But and then of course the pressure, much of it self-imposed, to get back open so that I could take care of folks. Because I was having to answer phone calls every day and say, "Oh, I'm really sorry." And at first I would say to them, "Well, I should be open by, September or say October the 20th." I didn't have a clue, but so I think that what I'm feeling right now is a big sigh of relief that I'm open. I have a big sigh of relief that I crossed the bridge. I mean, a month ago I didn't know what a point of sale system was. I mean, I knew it. See, when I was in retail back in the 70s, we wore a belt. We wore an onion on our belt in those days. And you had a cash register, and you went $1, and then you hit tax, and it did the tax, and then that was it. And there weren't any credit cards, and there weren't any fancy schmancy. The cloud. What was the cloud? It was going to rain, or it wasn't going to rain. And so here I am, a week ago, literally like a week ago, sitting down with a guy who's young enough to be my son, teaching me how to do this, and I'm thinking, what in God's name have I done? I don't know any, but you know what? It all works, and it works perfectly. And I was able to do all those things that have to be done, and it all makes sense. And so it's a big relief to kind of finally unlock the door and realize that indeed I can ring something up and it will go through, and I can email you your receipt, and the bank will get the money, and everybody's happy. And now I just have to figure out how to handle the IRS. Because that's the other thing I don't know how to do.
Well, back when you started, the barcode was tip your server.
Yeah, exactly. Try the veal. I'll be here all week. Yeah, we didn't know there was no such thing as barcodes.
Well, I'm so excited, and I'm glad to have played a tiny role in stocking shelves and painting walls and whatever the little bitty bit that I did. And it's just gratifying to see all the years that you've helped me out with my little business. And I'm so excited to be able to return the favor and to help you out and to build your business in the way that you've been so gracious and generous with your time and talents over the years. And I wish you the best of luck.
Well, thanks, James. I appreciate that very much. And I would return the same thing to you. We've had a great partnership. It's been great fun. It will continue. And it was, you've been an inspiration to me. Andy was an inspiration to me. All going to the homebrew conferences for the last 10, 12 years. I've met so many folks that I genuinely admire and like. And like I say, this opportunity came along, and the universe offered it to me. And I said, well, gosh, I think I better try this. And but I've had so much help and so much inspiration, And I'll need more of both along the way, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll make some mistakes. I'll make some big ones and some little ones. But my little brother Mike said to me one time, and he and I go fishing a lot together, and so we have very deep conversations on the boat. But he said, you never fail until you quit trying.
We're sentimental old men.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. It already is. And I can't tell you how excited I am. Cheers. Cheers, buddy.
Thanks.
Well, thanks again to Steve. We shot a video tour of the shop because a lot of people were asking for that online. And that will be on the next episode of Basic Brewing Video, which will probably run on Monday of next week. The online shop is not up yet, but you can go to stevesbrewshop.com and sign up to be notified when it is up and going. And Steve and I also shot a video about our 15-minute pale ale kit that will eventually be available online. So one step at a time. We're making progress, though. Steve is. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to send in your disaster stories. Get them in so that we can get them on the show. In the meantime, if you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our support link where you can throw a couple of bucks into the tip jar by subscribing financially to our podcasts. Be sure to check out our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All-Grain Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits. You can find them all on our site. You get a free Basic Brewing bottle opener with any DVD combo. You can check out our Basic Brewing shirts in the store as well. You can find our logbooks where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. Check all that out at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are TSM 3-prong USA-made sausage pricker and Defen Twinkle LED party decorative string lights with 8 modes. Thanks again, everybody. And remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site. The next time you feel like Amazon shopping, we greatly appreciate your support. Don't forget you can also join the American Homebrewers Association and subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine through the associate links on basicbrewing.com. Well, that's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.